Welcome everyone to today's Forum One webinar. Today we're going to be talking about building trust and credibility through design. Jasmine is going to walk you through and equip you with the knowledge to build trust with the audiences, with your audiences that align with your organization's mission and values. Today's webinar is hosted by Forum One, and in case you're not familiar with us, we are a digital agency that amplifies the impact of mission-driven organizations through transformational digital solutions. Impact has been woven into our company's DNA since 1996. And as we celebrate over 26 years of turning ideas into impact with so many of our clients and partners, we look forward to the opportunity to connect with you further on how to expand your organization's impact. In terms of some of the organizations we work with, here is a good overview of some of the organizations we work with, including nonprofits, associations, foundations, cultural institutions, and government agencies. We partner with these organizations to understand their challenges and implement effective solutions that have an impact, many of which we've worked with for over 10 years. So if you'd like to learn more about us and some of the work we do and the organizations we work with, you're welcome to check us out at forum1.com. And with that, let's move into some introductions. My name, again, is Cassandra Swenson, and I'm the Senior Marketing Specialist here at Forum One. And I'm very excited to be joined today by our VP of Design, Jasmine Patel. Jasmine leads a talented team of design experts specializing in UX design and research, brand strategy and implementation, graphic design, and more. She's going to be sharing more about her background and experiences throughout today's webinar. So with that, I will turn the floor over to you, Jasmine.
Thanks, Cass. Hi, and welcome. It's so great to see all these folks who are interested in change and mission-driven work here today. Today, we're diving into an important and really fun topic for me, building trust through design, techniques for mission-driven organizations. We'll talk through ways that you can understand your audience needs, how to communicate trust effectively with design practices, techniques to foster continuous engagement with your audiences, and how to ensure that your designs are inclusive and accessible. I'm so excited to share more about how I see design being able to amplify your missions and foster trust with your audiences. I've heard a lot of questions from clients and internal teams about how tough it can seemingly be to gain consensus and instill that trust when you're in the design process. With this being an election year and all the advances of AI consistently in the news, it's understandable that something as seemingly subjective as design would not be the go-to tool to build trust. I've been working on and with design and user experience teams for the past 15 years in commercial and nonprofit sectors, both in-house and consulting. I recently served as the director of digital experience at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, ensuring that the digital properties developed by the organization engaged audiences and celebrated the vast collection and knowledge of the subject matter experts working there. I've worked in advertising agencies and digital shops, helping large commercial brands engage with their audiences in innovative ways in the service of developing lasting and enduring brand engagement. Throughout it all, I've heard over and over that it's impossible to design by committee. But in my mind, the design process is definitely a team sport that involves internal teams and external audiences alike. If any of you grew up participating in team sports or group activities like sports, chorus, band, or musical theater like I did, then you know how important it is to be able to lean on your teammate to get you to your goal. Whether that's a soccer goal, an orchestral piece being played without a hitch, or a successful design project, it all takes trust. And the fans feel that on the other end. That momentum builds and spurs credibility in your future actions. AKA, those fans know they can count on you for a win and to make the right moves along the way to get there. My aim today is to share some tried and true design principles with you that have helped me and my teams develop trust both internally and with external audiences. I want you to be able to walk away from this with a relatable experience from your own lives that you're able to leverage the next time you're presented with a complex design challenge, so that it helps you understand how to design a potential solution or two. Before we dig in, we'd like to ask you all a question. So we're going to use a poll. You'll see a prompt appear on your screen, hopefully right now. And if you can choose the answer and hit submit, we'll get results quickly and we can share with the group. So I'll let everyone have a few seconds here to submit the poll. And the question again is, where does your specific challenge lie in creating trust? Is it with your internal stakeholders, external audiences, or perhaps both? All right. I think we're getting responses. Cass, can you on the other side show me if we've got anything? All right, thanks. Interesting, interesting. As expected, both. 76% of you said both. I am glad that that was your response because that's really how we've tailored this presentation to proceed. So let's dive in a little bit more into our first topic. The cornerstone of all good design, right? Understanding audience needs. Through our work with many mission-driven organizations, we understand how connecting deeply with your audience is paramount. But the question that many of you may have is, how can you identify and adapt your designs to the evolving needs of your audiences to ensure that your mission resonates deeply? Now, I wasn't an amazing soccer player, but I did enjoy playing on soccer teams throughout my childhood. I was always a midfielder, the one charged with passing the ball to my teammates and knowing where they were in any moment. I really thrived in this because, let's face it, my aim in scoring goals wasn't going to win us the game. But making sure I got the ball to the right person at the right moment allowed my teammates to trust in me. And the fact that we were able to score goals over and over again built credibility in our collective skills. Passing the design ball on projects similarly builds skills amongst team members, and that strategic teamwork translates to efficiency on the other end, building products that your audiences want to engage with because they've been thoroughly tested and designed. Now, understanding audience needs is the basis of all good strategy and user experience processes, but we often see the end users become deprioritized or lost in the design phase. I want to share a few of my favorite techniques for making sure that you're identifying and adapting to those evolving needs of your audiences while you're designing. And you may very well be doing some of these things already. The shift here may only be to think about this with a design lens. I personally think that the most powerful design technique, is to engage in active listening and empathy building exercises with your internal stakeholders. By continuing to understand the challenges, desires, aspirations of your audiences, you can really tailor your designs to resonate on a deeper level. I encourage structured listening sessions where team members can take turns sharing their thoughts and concerns, while others actively listen without interruption. This fosters a culture of open communication and empathy within a team, just like a good soccer coach does for their team, right? While I was at the Philadelphia Museum of Art working on a website redesign, we as a team recognized the need to be transparent with our internal audiences, and we started hosting a series of monthly open forum presentations called Website Wednesdays. Alliteration helps. All museum employees were welcome to join and ask questions, and many of those questions led to important design conversations later on. Encourage team members to participate in collaborative brainstorming sessions where everyone has an opportunity to contribute ideas and solutions. You want to create that safe space where all voices are valued and respected. And practice, practice, practice like a good team. Brainstorming together is another great way to get your teams working towards the same goals. For example, a quick Crazy Eights exercise only takes a few minutes and allows everyone a safe and open space to ideate. You'll probably generate more ideas than you're able to squeeze into one product. And then engaging in role-playing exercises allows your team members to take on the perspective of different user personas. This can help them gain insight into the challenges and experiences faced by their audience. And just like soccer, you have to run these drills more than once to be successful. Now, personas can be tough to define at times and to get a hold of, depending on limited resources, but with the help of trained consultants, you can really leverage them into valuable design tools. Shifting to the other side of the game, getting the trust of your end users is the way to ensure that the designs that you and your teams pour your time and energy and your heart into are engaging and continue to be used by audiences past that initial look. So listen to the crowd. Create surveys and feedback forms to gather insights from your external audiences. Ask questions about their needs, their preferences, pain points, and desired outcomes as it relates to your product or service. These can be simple and quick frameworks, right? No need to over engineer them. For example, if you're a nonprofit that's looking to stand up a new initiative or program for a specific audience, launch a quick 4 to 5 question survey on a related section of a website, right when you're in the planning phase. Timing these types of feedback with new initiatives can really help point your design in the right direction before it's off the ground, which can save you lots of valuable time and money. Conducting user testing sessions where participants interact with your product or prototype will provide that real-time feedback that is invaluable to informing designs as they're in progress. This is like that friendly game or scrimmage with another team. You're going to be able to observe their actions and listen to their verbal feedback to uncover where there's issues and areas for improvement. Getting this type of feedback from your end users is key to making sure that these experiences really resonate with them. For example, a couple of years ago here at Forum One, we worked with a prominent think tank that was creating a brand new product using brand new technology. They had nothing more than kind of a general idea for the interface and a number of loose assumptions. We used a simple paper-based sketch to help crystallize their ideas into a design and then built an HTML prototype. We tested that prototype, iterated on it, and tested it again. This prototype and the successful tests helped the organization to obtain grant funding to then build out the working product. And don't forget to talk to your fans directly. Organize focus groups made of members of your target audience. By facilitating discussions around specific topics or features, you're allowing participants to share their opinions, their experiences, and their suggestions to improve and guide those designs. If you're a government organization trying to guide the design of a complex feature on your site, just talking with folks may not be enough to get the specific ideas you need. Try using creative stimuli, like prototypes again, to provide the context that will get you that invaluable feedback. Paper prototypes and sketches are really cost effective and an easy way to make sure your focus group understands what you're trying to design. And now these can be done virtually as well. Pick a few of those fans and schedule interviews with them to delve deeper into their experiences and perceptions. This type of qualitative feedback is user gold. Use a mix of open-ended and then probing questions to uncover valuable insights and anecdotes. Interviews like these can be more time-consuming, but being able to dig deeper into a user's response, ask them those relevant questions, so much easier than attempting to parse through a moderated response when you don't have access to that interviewee. The good thing is if you're an organization with limited budget or shortened timeline, you don't have to conduct a ton of interviews to start to see the patterns in the feedback. Even 5 30-minute sessions can start to get you the leads you're looking for. Lastly, check the socials. Monitor social media channels for mentions and chatter about your brand or industry. Pay close attention to what people are saying and look for those common themes or pain points. You can then use this information to inform your design decisions, balanced with other feedback, of course. All right. Once you've begun to understand your audience's needs, the next step is to start communicating trust effectively. Trust is the bedrock of any mission-driven organization, and effective communication is key to building and maintaining that trust. So, how can the products we design help convey reliability, transparency, and integrity to the folks who will use them in the end? When I first started indoor rock climbing, I was extremely skeptical of anyone that was belaying or supporting me as I climbed up a 60-foot wall. These people are holding your very lives in their hands, so you have to be able to trust them with it. You typically may think of rock climbing as more of a solo sport, but it's really based on the trust in a partnership and the support of a wider community of climbers. I'll admit that I'm still very much an amateur, but even I am keenly aware of how important it is to have your gear set up correctly before any action happens. Once you've established trust with your partner and through this safe foundation, your communications then have to be clear, short, and sometimes loud to make sure you're accurately conveying the message. You establish credibility when you then in turn listen carefully to make sure that they've understood and are ready to get started. In design, the biggest mistake I've seen teams make is to only allow the product that you're developing and designing to communicate in one direction. How can you truly know that something resonates with your audiences if they can't tell you anything about it? And are you paying attention to all of the right cues? Clarity, authenticity, and inclusivity are essential for communicating trust effectively. So, here's some techniques that we like to use. Designing feedback mechanisms or feedback loops encourages open communication with audiences. When you're climbing, you have to make sure you tell someone it's okay to start climbing and for them to say, okay, starting to climb, to doubly make sure that you're both on the same page. Actively listening to feedback about your designs and responding transparently demonstrates that willingness to engage and to improve, and that strengthens trust over time. Contact forms and comment sections are a great way of designing features that will get you key info to improve your designs over time. And your users will appreciate that you've done it. Consistency in your design elements, things like logos, color schemes, and typography, creates a cohesive brand identity. On a rock climbing wall, you can expect consistent patterns in the types of holds that you're using to guide you up. Sometimes there's a color theme or a type of hold that you're using to go up a certain path. Similarly, in design, a consistent visual identity across all your communication channels then instills confidence and reliability in your organization. If you're about to or have just undergone a brand refresh or are rebranding, now is the time to think about establishing a design system. These are like the digital extension of your typical print-focused brand guidelines, and they are scalable based on your needs as an organization. So whether you're a focused NGO or a larger governmental organization, you can create a system to support consistent branding across all of your channels. Much like climbers need to clearly mark their routes to understand how to get up a wall, thoughtful design of information architecture can ensure that the content you add to your experience is organized in a logical and easily navigable manner. Clear navigation paths and intuitive user interfaces make it easy for audiences to find information, and that in turn promotes transparency and trust on their end. We recently worked with partners on an update to the website for the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. The site was outdated in appearance and did not effectively portray the agency's mission and resources. After reviewing their content, we noticed that there was also a lot of outdated and underused content across the site, as well as valuable material in unexpected locations. Together, we worked to organize key content into major topical areas, each of which aggregates tools, resources, and other content types on that area. It also created a resources and tools library for quick access to the most important material to address security issues. Just like a route map for a climber, visual elements such as imagery, icons, and infographics can be used to communicate complex ideas and information in a clear and honest manner. Avoid misleading and manipulative visuals because you want to reinforce the organization's integrity. We recently partnered with the Howard Hughes Medical Institute's Tangled Bank Studios to support the launch of their new Wild Hope video production, which highlights the heroes and successes, both small and large, of biodiversity preservation. All through the mobile responsive WordPress site, we've peppered in imagery and icons that reinforce the mission of the brand itself. We worked really closely with our clients to ensure that the images utilized across the site supported the mission of the series. Design can be a great tool to tell authentic stories that resonate with your audiences on an emotional level. By incorporating real-life examples, stories, testimonials, and even user-generated content, you can humanize the organization and then build trust through those genuine connections. Climbers love a good recounting of their awesome ascents. And if any of you have seen the Netflix documentaries about outdoor climbing, you'll notice how intriguing a topic like this can be even to a newcomer. Use that real-life hook in your designs. Charts, graphs, and interactive dashboards are an accessible way to present data and statistics visually, which in turn enhances transparency and credibility in your organization. Clear and visually engaging data visualization allows audiences to understand complex information more easily, and that fosters trust in your expertise. The team at NYU Grossman School of Medicine's Department of Population Health came to us a few years ago with an idea to provide a broad set of health metrics for the largest US cities to policymakers and community leaders to help solve intractable health issues. We launched the City Health Dashboard in 2018 and have been developing and expanding on that concept since then. The core of the site is the ability to see relative performance on a metric against both the national averages, other cities, and between neighborhoods and cities. Scale charts and maps provided that visual representation that help audiences engage and establish that credibility. The NYU team has used these visual tools to support educational presentations and consulting projects, engaging larger numbers of constituents in this complex data than might otherwise be possible. And for those of you who are interested in learning more about the role of language and voice in crafting brand narratives and how they're perceived, we actually have a webinar coming up next month that can help. Our June webinar is going to be led by Stephen Bond, our VP of Strategy, and it's called Psycholinguistics, What Your Organization's Language is Silently Communicating. It's going to focus on brand perception through language. Okay, so let's say you're understanding your audience's needs, you're building effective methods of communication. What's next? I think all of us here know that fostering ongoing engagement is essential for building a community of passionate supporters and advocates. To that end, how can design help maintain engagement over time? Another group activity metaphor coming your way. If any of you have played music in a band or an orchestra before, then you understand the profound impact of an engaged and participatory audience. Bands feed off the responses of their audiences, and this can make or break a performance. And those audiences, once they're engaged and trust in the performers to deliver the experiences they signed up for, they're converted into fans. And fans continue to not only attend, buy the tickets and the merch, and go to the concerts, but they're the ones out there telling everyone about how awesome that band or performer was. I'm a professed former band, chorus, musical theater nerd, and I wear that badge proudly, band camp and all, because it's honestly translated into some key skills that have helped me design products that keep people engaged. There's a pride when an audience reacts how you wanted them to, and the trust from their end when you've delivered on your goal, that performance you sold them, right? That's fantastic. The continued patronage, though, the folks that return time and again because you're continuing to deliver fresh, innovative performances, that's credibility gold right there. Similar to performances, designs weave stories. So how do we ensure that the end users turn into those fans who come back to re-engage with your products time and again? One powerful strategy is to create immersive and interactive experiences that invite participation and collaboration. From engaging social media campaigns to interactive web features, every touchpoint should provide value and foster a sense of belonging. One thing that a good band gets is the need to make the experience for their audiences easy and fun at the same time. Design your digital platforms with the same user experience in mind. Ensuring that your user interface navigation is intuitive, that your content is accessible, and that interacting with your products are seamless will go a long way in encouraging visitors to explore more and engage with your organization. We worked with the Oregon Zoo to redesign their site as part of their strategic effort to deliver an inspiring guest experience and better convey their offerings and impact. The zoo needed their site's design to incorporate their new brand, while also focusing on the mobile experience that many of their visitors rely on to plan their trips and navigate their journeys. We worked with the zoo team to build an accessible, multilingual, and mobile-first digital experience. We balanced this responsive design with delightful interactive features like load animations, hover effects, and striking photography to highlight the zoo's impact. Starting with a focus on creating a user-friendly interface made all the difference here. Just as Spotify hooks me in each time I get a notification for a new music alert, or the way folks will flock to a concert for a band that's reunited after 20 years with a new album, much like my husband and all his friends at the recent Blink-182 concerts, you can design for your experiences to support fresh and relevant content. New information, stories, and updates about your mission and activities will encourage repeat visits and ongoing engagement from your audience. Designing your experience to be interactive will make them feel more engaging and dynamic. Like a good AMA or Ask Me Anything session with your favorite artist, these bits of interactivity boost engagement. Consider adding interactive elements like quizzes, polls, and interactive infographics into your content. These types of features encourage your audience to actively participate, keeping them engaged and invested in your mission. And again, here, these should be aligned with your goals and mission. They should be balanced with the rest of your content overall. So if you're a smaller nonprofit, you may only need to consider focusing the interactivity on your site or experience into one or two areas. Look at data to understand where folks tend to interact most to see if you can enhance that experience and increase engagement by adding interactivity. Use visual storytelling techniques and to communicate your mission and impact effectively. Compelling imagery, videos, animations that can evoke emotion and inspire action, keeping your audience connected to your cause. We recently partnered with the Smithsonian Institution to develop an immersive multimedia storytelling experience that was narrated by actress Rosario Dawson that focused on highlighting women's contributions to history, which are often missing from America's historical record. The first challenge we encountered was how to tell a visual story about missing content without accompanying assets. Our team created original illustrations and crafted a digital storytelling approach that featured immersive scrolling animations accompanied by audio and curator interviews to bring these stories to life. Assessing the access to assets like this early on in the project helped us understand the focus for creating new illustrations and animations later on. These were key to creating that immersive experience. And lastly, I don't know about you, but I really get excited when I get that email or notification from Spotify that one of my favorite artists has created something for me. Now, I know that Spotify working some personalization magic on the other end, but it still feels more interesting because it's directed at an artist I'm interested in specifically. Consider tailoring your content and messaging to meet the interests and preferences of your audience. You can use data analytics and user segmentation to deliver personalized experiences that resonate with individuals on a deeper level. Turning to our last and maybe most important topic today, ensuring accessibility. I know that inclusivity lies at the heart of every one of your mission-driven organizations. Ensuring that the designs you put out in the world are inclusive is key to building digital experiences that welcome and respect all users. So then, how can we ensure that our designs are accessible to everyone? And what a perfect time to talk about this too, as tomorrow's Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Growing up in the Pocono Mountains, I had the luxury of learning to swim in a river. As a kid, the lifeguards on the river that kept us safe were like superheroes. So when I became a teenager, I joined a team of lifeguards who patrolled a beach in the Delaware Water Gap. Lifeguarding is the ultimate team sport because of the implied consequences. Your goal is to make sure everyone can safely and equitably enjoy the water. Our beach was commonly frequented by folks of all ages, both local and new to the area, with varying levels of swimming skills. And though the beach area of the river was roped off to a certain extent, there were still undercurrents and weather patterns to consider. With all of these potential implications to safety, there was a huge need to not only uphold the many important rules and regulations, but to do our best to explain the need for them. Add to that, you have to make sure everyone understands what to do with the quick sounding of a whistle and some hand gestures. In lifeguarding and in design, accessibility is not just a legal requirement, it's a moral imperative. In both, teams must work together, designers and internal stakeholders alike, to ensure that all audiences can easily understand how to engage in the inclusive environment. And doing this right ensures that the end audiences trust that you'll take care of them and support them in their experience of whatever you design, a safe swimming environment or a digital product. Prioritizing accessibility not only demonstrates your organization's commitment to inclusivity, but also expands your reach and impact by making your mission accessible to a wider audience. Lifeguards live to follow and enforce the rules. Similarly, it's imperative that your teams familiarize themselves with established accessibility guidelines, WCAG, for example. These are the comprehensive standards for making digital content accessible to users with disabilities. When I was working in-house at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, we leaned on an external accessibility partner to help us train our internal teams on best practices. It made all the difference in creating consensus for accessible website designs, but it also eventually extended into increasing the accessibility of PDF materials. And I'm sure many of you deal with lots of PDF content on your websites. Sometimes all it takes is an outside voice to help push these types of initiatives forward. Our job each and every day as a lifeguard was to ensure that we checked our equipment and the site before we opened it for the day. Conducting regular accessibility audits and usability testing to identify and address any accessibility issues is key. Getting feedback from users with disabilities will ensure that your designs meet their needs effectively. And when you're working on a river or at a pool, you have to consider the needs of folks with a range of skills and familiarity with the environment. Similarly, you can expect users to have a wide variety of needs when they're interacting with your digital experience. Ensuring that your digital products are optimized for mobile devices will accommodate the needs of those who prefer to engage on any device. A responsive design ensures a consistent and enjoyable experience across all devices, which increases engagement and accessibility. It's important to take your shades off to see clearly as a lifeguard. Similarly, running color contrast tests will ensure that folks with low vision or color blindness are able to see the content you've worked so hard to get them to engage with. Ensuring sufficient color contrast between text and background elements in your experiences will improve that readability. WCAG has specific guidelines for color contrast ratios that should be adhered to. We worked with the Howard Hughes Medical Institute Biointeractive team to create a user-friendly and engaging digital hub for educational resources, interactive applications, lesson plans, workshops, and more to help over 40,000 science educators around the world connect students with inspiring ideas in biology and increase engagement with the sciences. Our team ran color contrast tests at the beginning of the project to determine what color combinations would follow the guidelines. These were then pulled into the final style guide to ensure understanding and adherence of them going forward. It's also important to consider accessibility for things that are seemingly as mundane as forms. Using clear labels and field sets, giving folks instructions and error messages in a way that's accessible to everyone will ensure that these forms are able to be engaged with by all. And then make sure that any content you're creating has descriptive alternative text. Excuse me. Just as some signage, at swim areas can be tough to decipher if it's only got icons on it, we want to make sure we're supporting web imagery with text which can be read. This goes for images, icons, non-text content. Alt text provides that essential context for users who cannot see images, ensuring that they understand the content. That's it, y'all. Easy peasy, right? I'm kidding. I'm sure that can seem like a lot of strategies to try to employ at once, but trust isn't built overnight. Credibility takes time and visible success. The philosopher Robert C. Solomon said, "Building trust begins with an appreciation and understanding of trust, but it also requires practice, and practice says." Being here today shows just how invested all of you are in building that trust with your audiences. Building that trust through design takes time and practice. The best way to start building trust is to pick an area of focus and test out a technique. Though these ideas can be approached in any particular order, they can work nicely in tandem if you pair them together. Pick one or a few to focus on based on how relevant the impact might be to your work. Try them out, see how it goes, and iterate. Consider ways to understand the needs of your users. Look for ways to ensure back and forth communication. Create opportunities to continuously engage with your brand and products, and support their varied needs with inclusive design approaches. Thank you all for listening to me ramble on about group sports metaphors and design. This has been a really fun exercise for me in translating experiences from my past into how they relate to my design practice today. I hope you're all inspired to find the design learnings in your past experiences and to lean on them in the future. And now, Cass, I think we open up the floor for questions.
We do. So thank you so much, Jasmine. That was all so helpful and so informative. Everyone that's here in attendance. If you have any questions for Jasmine, now is your time. The floor is yours to ask her anything related to the webinar today. So you can use the Q&A box, and we have a few coming in. So we'll start with those, and then we'll go through any other questions that come through. So first is, how do you know if you have a trust issue? I think you're muted, Jasmine. Yep.
Thank you. Sorry, paused to get a drink. I didn't realize speaking for that long would be so rough on the vocal cords. Um, I think it's different for internal and external groups. I think internally you can sometimes experience prolonged timelines, tension in back and forth decision making. Uh, those types of issues, I think, will let you know if there's a bit of a trust issue internally. Externally, um, looking at metrics, right? How folks are engaging with your products, how long they're staying on a page, whether or not they're leaving immediately, making sure that you have all of those key performance indicators set up at the beginning of a project to then review the success of it later on will help you decipher whether or not external audiences trust in your designs. You can also lean on qualitative research, right? Asking them directly is a great way to know if your audiences trust the designs and products that you've made for them.
Great, thank you. So we do have another question. Oh, now they're rolling in. Okay, so the next one is, how would you recommend creating a balance between creating a website slash product that is accessible to all versus tailored to meet the needs of specific users?
It's an interesting question. I'm going to pause for while I read it and think about it again. I think there's a difference in designing something that is accessible to all users and one that has content for specific users. And I think that's where we look at sort of drawing the line. Accessibility is sort of a have to have, right? Everything that you create online, digital experience should be able to engage with by anyone without no matter of their needs. I think the content is different, right? I think a lot of what we deal with internally at times in organizations and when we're working with our clients is the need to have content that specifically meets the needs of certain users. That's where I think there's a difference, right? There's accessibility of features that you can rely on the WCAG to help you understand. And then there's the content needs. And that's where having strategy, content design, those pieces involved in your design practice are really helpful. Hopefully that answers the question. And if not, feel free to add another one in.
Okay, our next question says, looking forward, what emerging design trends do you believe will be most influential in enhancing trust and credibility for digital platforms?
I see you, Thomas. I see what you're doing here, and I like it. Uh, I'm gonna do the controversial card and say AI. I know that right now, I think there's a lot of questions about artificial intelligence and how it's going to impact the design world. But I've seen a lot of really interesting benefits from it so far. I've seen it help with efficiency. I think there's a lot of wrangling to be done with it and sort of how it's used, provide regulations and support around that. But I can see artificial intelligence helping us have those conversations with our users, right? Helping facilitate and gather some of those pain points and themes, and maybe even thinking about how to balance qualitative and quantitative research, right? The data and things that you're hearing, matching them up and helping us synthesize it all at a quicker rate, at a more efficient rate, in a more cost-effective way. So that might be my first answer. I'll ruminate on maybe some others.
All right, our next one is, out of all the things you said today, Jasmine, what would they need to prioritize out of all of them?
Hmm. I think it goes with understanding the needs of your audiences first. Without understanding what your internal teams are looking to achieve without having those goals written out and everyone aligned on, balanced with the understanding of what your audiences are expecting from this product, you won't be able to even move forward, I think, with how to efficiently communicate. You want to make sure everyone's aligned internally and that what you're making is going to meet an actual need in the market, that folks that are out there want to engage with it. Because you won't be able to get them to continuously engage with it unless you know that they want that.
Great. And our last question, unless anyone else throws one in there, is which do we tackle first? Internal stakeholders or external audiences?
Fun. Yeah, going back to that poll at the top, right? Where everyone, I think it was 76% of folks said they had challenges with both internal, external audiences and internal stakeholders. I I think that you have to tackle the challenge. I'm thinking through this now as I respond with with internal stakeholders first. Because unless you're aligned internally, the product that you're going to make is not is never going to work, right? I do think there's a slight difference in an existing product that you're trying to enhance or a new product. And maybe that's where the internal stakeholders I would tackle first. If it's something that's brand new, if you've never tested it with an audience, if you've not been able to chat to understand the needs of an audience yet, tackle those internal stakeholders first. Get everyone aligned and talking and thinking about design and the need for it. If it's something that you've put out in the world already and you have some learnings and you have some feedback, keep building on that first to make sure that you're meeting the needs of your audiences that are already engaging with the product. Hopefully that answers the question.
I think so. And we
Yeah.
did have another one come in and it says, do you have suggestions for building internal buy-in on spending the time and budget to do user research with external audiences?
Studies and data. I think it's really hard to sort of quantify the value of user research unless you have data points to pull from. I think having metrics on, engagement metrics to pull from on an existing product to show where there's an issue that needs to be tackled with design or a new feature that needs to be thought of, you won't be able to get that buy-in from internal stakeholders to get that time and budget. I've been there before. It's been really hard. Sometimes it's easy to say, we should all understand this is a need, right? But the way that I've at least had success in the past is with providing those percentages, right? 76% of our users can't find this one piece here. We want to learn more about X, and I want to dig into this, and this is why it's causing a drop off. Look at conversion rates, because data is indisputable. So that's what I would do.
Great. Thank you, Jasmine. I think that's all the questions, unless someone's typing really quickly right now. We want to thank you all for registering and attending live. I did pop in the webinar chat our June webinar hosted by our VP of Strategy, Stephen Bond, on psycholinguistics. So that's going to be another great one to attend. So go ahead and register for that on June 18th, and we will see you then. Thank you again, and you'll have this recording in your inbox soon.
Thanks, y'all.
Everybody.